The Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association presents Freshman Focus. A look at 2-year-olds in training across the Buckeye State. Freshman Focus is presented by El Dorado Scioto Downs. Racing begins May 11th with the next generation July 1st. By Sugar Valley Farm. Looking for your next quality standard-bred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. And by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, caring down to a science. Now here's your host, Roger Huston.
Welcome to another edition of Freshman Focus. We've made the trip to Glory Meadows to speak with trainer Rosy Weaver about her 2-year-olds in training here in the Buckeye State. After this message, we'll sit down and talk with Rosie.
Racing is back at El Dorado Scioto Downs. Catch the excitement all summer long in the new grandstands. Live racing every Tuesday through Saturday nights. Tuesday and Wednesday post time is 3:15. Thursday through Saturday, the first race post time is 5:50. Mark your calendar to see the future stars with a $150,000 Next Generation on July 1st. Horse players earn points with the new Caesars Rewards program. El Dorado Scioto Downs. Live racing is back.
Welcome back to Freshman Focus with Rosy Weaver here at Glory Meadows, our training center. Rosie, this is a new location for the Weaver operation.
Yeah, it's I love it here. This is actually where I started like 20 years ago. I was a groom here, and I never dreamt I would make a full circle and come back and actually be in charge.
Now this, the new owner calls it Glory Meadows, and I understand that, but this is the old flowing mineral farm?
Yes, Ruby Hostetler owned this when I first worked here, and I started as a groom. She actually passed away last year when I was in Aiken, and I didn't find out till the calling hours and stuff were all over, and Ruby was a great lady, and I loved working for her, and I think she would be pretty proud if she knew that I was, back in training and in charge, and I think it would really make her happy.
I'll tell you, this is just a tremendous setting. Being here rather than being up at Northfield with all the other stables there, has it changed your operation to some degree?
Yeah, it has. Able to do something that I've always wanted to do and tried to do with what I've had at home, just a couple fields where I could turn horses out. I'm a big fan of turning horses out, even racing them right out of the field. And here we have 4 paddocks, one big run-in shed, or a paddock with a run-in shed, and the infield's fenced in. So as you can see, there's horses out there right now.
It's wild. A nice place for the owners to come. We actually got an audience today, some owners, and gentleman used to be in harness racing, J.D. Wingard, stopped by to take a look at the operation as well.
Yes, it's a great place for my owners to come out, and like I always tell everybody, they're always welcome out here at any point in time. No need to call ahead unless they want to see their horse train. But it's so peaceful for the horses too, especially with 30 trotters. It helps when there's a lot less going on, just quiet.
Now this past season, a great year, I would say, for Rosy Weaver at the county fairs and also at the racetracks for your stable.
Yes, we had the best year so far, and like you said, we had very nice horses at the fairs, and then I had a real legend who showed up big time on the big stage. So it was, and we had some nice Buckeye horses too. I think we had horses in about every final, which is the goal.
Stable of all trotters, have you increased the number of your horses this year?
I think it's exactly the same. I had 21 2-year-olds this year. I had 22 last year. And we have a little more 3-year-olds. I think I have 9, and I had like 6 or 7 last year.
Now, do you have any older horses, or you leave your operation to 2- and 3-year-olds?
It's strictly 2 and 3 this year. I had Elegant Gigi last year. She's my own horse. She's actually in foal now, so she'll be my first broodmare.
Now, also, you've spent 2 years down at Aiken. the training center there. And the combination of being in Florida in the winter and your whole stable right here at this peaceful setting, it's got to be better for the horses and their attitude, I would think.
It's way better for their attitudes. I think they're way more relaxed and not as keyed up, less chances of tying up, all kinds of things, and it's all good.
Now, this is the largest stable of horses that we've ever used on Freshman Focus. We've used been about 10, but got to be honest, Rosie gave me a call about 2 days ago, and she said I had a couple horses trained real good. We add them, and so we got 12 horses we're looking at today. And are you happy with the progress that they've made here?
I am. We trained them all between 15 and 20 down in Aiken. And then, like last year, I backed off when it came back to the half because it's different when the turns are a lot sharper, and I just we have some really big ones, you know, a couple 2-year-olds that are just huge. And I've just been easing them into, you know, coming back. And we trained them yesterday, and we let them all trot a very nice last half, just in jog carts, some of them last quarters and 31 pretty handily.
Uncle Peter's, What the Hill, Global Republic S, Enterprise, Long Tom, Cretin. I see a Triumphant Caviar even.
Yes, that's one of the horses I added. He's we got him privately. I had his full brother the last 2 years, and I talked to the guy that bred and raised him, and he got hurt early, cut his leg, and bad enough to where they couldn't put him in a sale. And we got him private, and his leg's not very fancy looking. We call him Scar, and you'll see for the right reason. And he's just never took a lame step. He's never done a thing wrong. He's the most laid-back Triumphant Caviar that's probably ever been created. So he's done everything right, so I just thought he deserved to be in this today.
Okay. Fillies, geldings, colts, got a little bit of everything as far as that goes. Who makes the decision on gelding horses or keeping them as colts? Is that a hard choice?
Not really, and I am real quick to get them gelded. I might be wrong, but I think it can affect their gait early on if they are, you know, if they happen to start trotting funky and interfering and getting sore. And, we probably should have let a Real Legend a stud, but that's all in the past now. But I'm not a big fan. No, I'm not a big fan of leaving them stud.
How big of a crew you got operating in the Weaver operation?
I think I have 7 people working right now. I think 5 grooms, and then I have Robin and Donnie help me jog and train.
Can't do a Rosie Weaver without talking the association you got with Don Irvine.
Yeah, him and I have done a lot of good. I think it really helps when it helps no matter what, but having so many trotters to not have and nothing against any drivers, there's a lot of good ones, but for him to help train and jog and have his hands in the lines of some of these horses on a daily basis, I think really helps, you know, so you're not jumping from driver to driver if you happen to not be able to get the same. I think that's a big advantage. It makes me look a lot better too, because that helps. That's big time. And Robin doesn't get enough credit either, because he always gets kind of stuck with the ones that, if there's the odd few that grab on or whatever, he can just sit out there and the lines are loose, and for some reason they don't grab on for him. He does great for me as well.
I'm talking to Donnie this morning. He's got about an hour-and-a-half drive just to be here. We started off early this morning. He had to get up a little after midnight, I think.
I don't think he sleeps too much. He's usually, it doesn't matter how late he's out racing, and he's always one of the first ones here, if not the first one, and ready to go.
Will you have as many horses racing at the fairs this season?
I don't know. I don't think we have a horse better than Legend was last year, but we have a better crop. Like we had 20 babies last year, and we had, you know, a few really nice ones, and then a bunch of fair horses. But my filly crop this year is a lot stronger than it was last year.
Do you have a preference at training fillies or colts?
It truly doesn't matter as long as they trot. No, I have no preference.
Yeah. What's your opinion on trotting hobbles?
I put them on a lot quicker now than I used to. And I use all hobbles that attach to the bike. I think they help balance out a trotter, especially a young one, a lot more. I see a lot of people use hobbles that just attach to the girth, and I'm not against it for older horses, but I mean, it's just worked great for me to use the hobbles that attach to the bike. But I'm not against them at all. I mean, I don't rush to put them on, but it seems what I've learned the last few years with all these trotters, the big, you know, the really big 2-year-olds that are, I wouldn't say clumsy, but almost a little gangly, and those hobbles really tend to help them get it together.
The trotters, no pacers. How did that develop? I mean, why don't you go with some pacers?
I don't think I'm good enough to go that fast. No, I started working here, and that's all Ruby ever had. We had 2- and 3-year-olds just like I do now, and I really enjoyed breaking the babies every year. And the closest I could get to answering that correctly is, I guess, because that's what I started with, you know, all trotters. I've had pacers throughout my career, just aged horses here and there, but the odd few. But they just, truly, they go so fast, and there's so many of them. I think if you can get these trotters to keep their cool and keep them happy and, you know, loose and calm down, I think you can make more money, the way I do it, more money with the trotters than the pacers, because it's not, I don't think it's quite as easy with the trotters. You don't just put hobbles on all of them and you go around there. So.
Now, Rosie Weaver, top trainer in the Buckeye State last year as wins are concerned, but you also take the opportunity to drive quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I think that, like I told you about Donnie jogging and training a bunch of them and, you know, having the same people, usually I get the ones I drive are either ones that have like a little bit of an issue or are a little bit behind maybe. And then, I don't know, I always try, like Heartland Acres, Willis and I, we usually go to the sales and we pick them out together, and Donnie helps pick them out. This year we had Dr. Wilson. He owns a piece of 4 of these, and him and his wife went to the sale with us, and it's one of my favorite times of the year when everybody gets together and we try to, you know, pick out horses that look like we can make them into something, and I really enjoy that. That's one of my favorite things to do is going to the sales and then breaking them and you know, just seeing them advance it's really satisfying.
Do you like driving though?
Yeah, I like driving, and like I said, I usually buy 1 or 2 of my own. So if I have a bad day with one of them, nobody can yell at me. Not that anybody does, but I have a creatine gelding and a full count filly, 2-year-old that I own myself, and they're both doing good, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw us at just about every fair with them too. But they're nice, and they're not doing anything wrong, but they're not in my top 10. You
know, I asked you that question, and all of a sudden you're seeing some of the biggest smiles that we've seen out of Rosie Weaver. I think you really like to drive, don't you?
I love it. Matter of fact, I really enjoy it, and like I said, I always buy a couple of my own. So, and nobody on the track disrespects me. Like, there's no. Ashley asked me last year or in January at the banquet how I feel out there on the track, and you know, if I think I get respect being a girl. And there's not one person on that track that looks at me like, "What are you doing out here?" I think the first couple years when I drove, you know, like, and that goes for everybody that starts. You know, you kind of got to earn your respect and prove that you can do it, you know, and do it right. And the first year or so, I mean, I might have got looked at like, "What are you doing out here?" But after that, like, when people like John Kineski and Chucky Taylor and people that have been in this business for a long time and have done it right, when they start, you know, looking at you and opening a spot for you to go in if you belong in it, you know, and not leaving me out there parked and getting in the way of people, and that really meant a lot once they, you know, started looking at me like I was supposed to be out there.
Yeah. Well, Rosie, thanks for sitting down with us and talking about your operation here at Glory Meadows. And after this message, we'll go into the barn and take a look at the 12 two-year-olds in the Rosie Weaver stable.
Looking for your next quality standardbred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. Sugar Valley's lineup of stallions includes world champion Down by the Seaside, Lather Up, the fastest horse in harness racing history, Little Brown Jug champion Well Said, and the newest stallions to the Sugar Valley lineup, Adios champion Catch the Fire, and the son of Hambletonian champion Muscle Hill, Marseille. Sugar Valley Farm, the home of champions.
Your animals provide unconditional love. When they hurt, you want the best care available to help them enjoy life again. The Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center is here for you and for them. From heart disease to cancer, diabetes to broken bones, and 24-hour emergency services, Ohio State's team of experts make a difference in the lives of animals and the family members who love them. The Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center.
Welcome back to Freshman Focus as we go to the barn and talk with Rosie about her two-year-olds in training. This is the gelding trotter Adventureful Pete by Uncle Peter out of Tagalong, Kendra by Ken Warkington. Not very big.
What's inside of him is a lot bigger than his size. This is my favorite little colt, or gelding I should say. He's done nothing wrong, and he's got a big stride. He's not tall at all, but he's really long, and I'm not really scared of small horses because he's got a big heart.
What have you been with your horses right now?
They've all beat, the ones that are on Focus today have all beat 20 at Aiken, between 15 and 20. They have not beat 20 here, but yesterday, like this little guy trotted the last quarter and 31 in the jog cart. We've let him trot fast last halves yesterday, and they trained great.
Are you on course to qualify the first couple weeks of June?
I think so, with for sure with 10 of them, yes.
Mm-hmm. This is Adventureful Pete by Uncle Peter. This is the gelding Smooth Talkin by What the Hill out of Time to Talk by Conway Hall. Your first What the Hill.
Yeah, I kind of X'd them off my list last year, and the reason was because I saw a lot of them were really hot, some of them short coupled, but obviously there were some really, really good ones. So I did a little homework and thought maybe I'll try a few that aren't short coupled, a little bit bigger, and so far I got 3, and I like all 3. 2 of them are in today in our video. This is the most expensive gelding we bought. I loved his video at the sale, and so far he's doing really good.
Now I'm not going to let you get by. You said the most expensive. What you have to go?
45.
45. Is that kind of way above your price range?
It is. I'm a lot more comfortable with 25, but I really, really liked him, so we bent that rule a little bit.
Do you still like him?
Yes. He's in, we got a generation spot for geldings and fillies this year, and he's definitely in the running for the boys spot.
You probably won't make your decision who to put in the next generation until it gets a lot closer to the entry box.
It might go right up until that day the way these boys are training, and girls for that matter, but yeah, there's no standout for the spot.
This is Smooth Talkin by What the Hill. This is a filly, One Fancy Lady by Long Tom out of Queen of Levesque by Master Levesque. Is she fancy?
I actually changed her name, and her barn name's Lady, and I tried to get She's a Lady for her name, and this Fancy Lady was my second choice. Yes, she's very professional in everything she does. She walks to the track just very professional. So that's why the name came, where I got Lady from.
Now they say with the fillies, a lot of them are just like the ladies that we have in our lives.
She's not. She's a lot nicer than that.
She's better than Rosie, is what you're saying.
She's never mad or grumpy, nothing. She's always good. This is Donnie's favorite filly to train. We got her at the select sale, and for a very fair price for how she's training. We gave 17 for her, and she's definitely, I think, one or two in the generation spot for the fillies.
What's the great thing about her that makes her Donnie Irvine's favorite?
Well, I don't know what she did right early on, but she can't do much wrong right now for him. So she's like I said, she's not like us women, you know. She's never had her ears pinned, or she's just willing to do whatever. And Donnie always trains her. This is, like I said, me and Robin and Donnie all have kind of a horse that we've, from the very get-go, hardly ever jumped off of.
So you don't switch around? And
we do for the most part, but there are, like I said, there's 3. And the reason I have the one I did, we just did Adventureful Pete. He's the orneriest little horse in the entire stable, and I take care of him on a daily basis too, him and Legend. So, I mean, he bites and tries to run out of stalls and jumps around on the track, and that's why I have him.
Well, this is the filly One Fancy Lady by Long Tom. This is the filly Hopeful Dreams by Long Tom out of Stand Up Babe by San Vic. Are the Long Toms kind of similar?
Yeah, they're all very willing, and this one here's probably a little bit hotter than the rest of them. I mean, she's so mellow and nice in the barn you'd never think, but she's all business on the track. And she was really tiny when we bought her, almost small enough to not be bought for us, you know, but she's really filled out and matured, and she's one of the nicer fillies we have as well.
You say she's kind of hot. Is there things you can do to cool her off?
I'm trying, but I think once the weather clears up and we can turn her out on a daily basis in the morning before she jogs, and even maybe after jogging afternoons, I think that'll help a lot.
How important is turning the horses out in the field?
I think it's way more important than most people realize, honestly, especially trotters. I don't have that much experience with pacers, I guess, but trotters tend to be a little more high-strung and tie up maybe a little bit easier, and just all around, I think it's just good medicine.
Yeah, I guess if you could put it in human terms, if you were locked up in a room all the time, you'd like to be turned out too.
Yes, and I probably would pout a little bit too.
Yeah. This is the filly Hopeful Dreams by Long Tom. This is the gelding Run Zeb by Uncle Peter out of Locomotion by Crazed, and he is a big one.
I think he's the biggest horse in our entire stable. He's taller than Legend, but not quite as filled out yet. But he's doing really good. I put trotting hobbles on him when we came back from Aiken. He was phenomenal down at Aiken on a mile track, and I'm just easing him into this track here because I don't want him to get into any bad habits and start leaning or whatever. But we trained him yesterday with hobbles for the first time, and he was really good.
Does the size create some problems?
Once in a while, just one, like I just talked about. He's almost too big. I think, like and he stayed sound the whole time. He's really light on his feet. He's very athletic for a giant horse like this, and very easygoing in his stall. Takes a lot of naps, lays down a lot, which I think is huge too for his long legs.
You got him now with the trotting hobbles. Do you think you'll reach a point though with him that you can take him off?
Maybe. I doubt I'll take him off this year though, because if they work, I'm not going to take him off.
This is Run Zeb by Uncle Peter. This is the gelding You Don't Fool Me by Long Tom out of Ariella by Donato Hanover. Another Long Tom, and looks sharp.
Yeah, he's a very, very pretty horse. He looks very proud going on the track. Very laid back. One of the most well-behaved babies we probably have. He's just never done nothing wrong. And when we bought him at the sale, I was a little hesitant because he's a little bit short-coupled and kind of a stockier horse. Actually more like the What the Hills is kind of what he looks like, more so than a Long Tom. But so far, he's trained really good, done everything we've asked him to do, and he has not interfered. And he's a very nice gelding.
So at this stage of the game, though, you're pretty happy with him.
Very happy.
Yeah. This is You Don't Fool Me. He hasn't fooled you, has he?
Not yet.
This is the filly Eckert Hill Carrie by Uncle Peter out of Carry the Torch by Muscle Mass. One of 3 Uncle Peters that we have.
Yeah, her and Adventureful Pete are like twins on the track. They're both pretty tiny, but they both are very willing and do everything right. And she's small, but she's in the running for the generation spot for sure.
Mm-hmm. Ownership on all these. Do you own a piece of almost all the horses?
Yes, for the most part. There's probably 4 or 5 of them I think in here that I don't. Mm-hmm. I own a quarter of this one. Me and Willis owns half, and then Dr. Wilson owns a quarter.
You keep mentioning Doc Wilson. He's quite a individual.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that he chose us to be partners with, you know, and he's just a very, very good guy.
Both years he and his wife made the trip down to Aiken to see him.
Yes, and this year, instead of just buying one horse by himself, he owns 4 with us, me and Willis. Smooth Talkin is one of them, and Zoom, the big horse we just did, he owns a piece of him, and then her, and there's another one. Oh, she's a One Fancy Lady. He owns a piece of her too.
Does he come out here every once in a while?
Quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he likes the laid-back atmosphere too, and he sits out there and watches them jog and train. He's very pleased with their progress so far.
How much you been with this filly?
She went in 17 in Aiken, and she trotted a good mile yesterday out here in the jog cart.
When you start dropping them, do you drop them a certain amount of time, or do you let the horse determine how far you're going to drop them?
Almost always let the horse determine kind of what they want to. I mean, I won't just drop 10 seconds with a horse that's grabbing on or whatever, but I don't treat any of them the same. I try to do what's right for them.
They're all different.
Yes, they're all different. They're all like us. We all have different attitudes, and we're just like these guys. And I think it's a big key to figuring them out and keeping them happy and making money for people is if you can, recognize what they are.
A lot of similarities, but each one has their own makeup. And this Uncle Peter is the filly Eckert Hill Carrie. This is the filly Ms. Enterprise by Enterprise out of San Loren Blue by Muscle Hill. I noticed, I always thought the Enterprise offspring are very similar for one reason or another. You've had other Enterprise foals?
I've had 4. I had 4 fillies last year, and I went to the sale. Nothing against Enterprise, but I had a big red X on Enterprise because the 4 fillies I had, just none of them panned out. A couple of them had bad attitudes, and I didn't even look at any Enterprises. And then the lady that bought her, I just met at the sale, and she was there to buy one filly, and her and her daughter were there, and they picked her out, and they had asked me if I would train one if they buy one, and I said yes, and was happy to. And at the end of the sale there, she came up to me and she said she bought a filly, and she was all excited, and I was too. And I said, "What did you get?" And she said, "An Enterprise filly." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so far, she has been as far from those 4 horses as you could imagine. She has proved me wrong in every aspect of everything.
I wonder what makes the difference.
I don't have an answer for that. I know she's got a Muscle Hill dam, which is obviously very good. But her manners from day one have been like a 4-year-old. She has done everything professionally. She has just made me look really stupid by not liking Enterprises.
So you may go back for an Enterprise maybe next year.
If I could find a few like this, I would buy them all.
This brought Rosie back to reality some degree. The filly Ms. Enterprise by Enterprise. This is a gelding race day by Creaton out of I Love You Like a Love Song by Credit Winner. You've had Creatons in the past, and any similarities?
This is probably the nicest creatine we've had so far. Passionate Promise is a nice filly, and she had a chip in her ankle last year, kind of halted her on any success last year, but she's doing good. She's in at Scioto today. And this one I bought at Lexington, and I own him myself.
So you don't just stay at the Ohio sales, you actually went to Kentucky.
I did, but it was kind of for a different reason. I took Legend down there for throat surgery. He had surgery at Root and Riddle, and it just happened that it was scheduled right around the sale. And I went over to Lexington. I took my mom and dad with me, and we picked this one out. And I have another What the Hill that's also training good that I bought there.
How's this one been training on the track?
Well, this is one we added in late because he trained really good the last few times. He was a little bit hot, more so than more of the other creatines I had. And I put a hood on him, and it just completely changed him, flipped him right around. He's been all business ever since, and he's been doing really good. He's a really nice horse.
You say you put a hood on him and totally changed him. Throughout the process, you make a lot of changes on all horses, don't you?
Yes, it's a never-ending job to make changes for the better. I always try to do the right thing to improve. And he's not hot, but when we would start out with sets, like when we first started out, he would just want to go way too fast. Just racy, you know, and I like that, but still needs to be under control. So a hood just basically fixed it.
This is the Race Day Gelding by Creatine. This is a filly Tady Hill by What the Hill out of UF Tady's Donato by Donato Hanover. You know, it's something with names, and this is one that I really like the name, and I don't know whether it's because it got Hill on there or what, but I kind of like this one.
This is a very nice filly. Me and my owner went down to look at her at the farm that raised her, and I really liked her. Her video was amazing, and everything was good till come time to buy her, and she brought way more than I could afford. And then I got lucky enough to train her for new owners, so it worked out really good.
What made the connection there between the new owners and Rosie Weaver?
I'm actually not sure. I guess the only thing I would think of would be the success that I've had in the last couple of years, and the nice horses that my owners had bought for me before that to be able to look, you know, the way we did on the track.
Did they know that you liked this one ahead of time?
I don't think so, because I didn't know either John nor Levi when they bought this filly, and so I don't think that had anything to do with it. I'm not sure how that.
You know how much they had to pay for her?
I think $65,000.
Oh, so she's getting up there.
Yes, and she's training as good as anybody in this entire barn. She's doing really good. She's really the biggest filly I have by far. And like I was telling you earlier about trotting hobbles, down in Aiken already, I put the hobbles on her, and it was like flipping a switch. It was just like she leans into those hobbles. She's so much more confident. It just completely turned her around.
You still got the hobbles on her up here?
Yes, and I doubt I'll take them off this year. Like I said, I'm the type of person that if I put something on and it instantly improves them a lot, I tend to not take it off. For sure, for not that year, you know.
This is the What the Hill filly, Tady Hill. This is a gelding Heza Fisher by Global Republic S out of She's Levesque and by Master Levesque. Heza Fisher was one of the first we took to the track this morning. I like the way he looked out on the racetrack.
He's got the generation spot to lose. He's actually the cheapest gelding we have, and I think he's the best. I hope someone, you know, some of them are better to prove me wrong, which means they'd be really nice, but right now I think this is the nicest gelding we have.
Now, did you break all of your horses this year?
No, I did break him. I think we might have done like 8 or 10 of them at the track. I'm really not a fan of breaking him up there with all the blacktop and the cars and so many people. So I tend to kind of shy away from it for that reason. I love breaking them, but being here at the farm this year, I can't wait to break them this fall. I'm going to try and get them all just done here.
Actually, this is the ideal location for breaking young horses at the very beginning, isn't it?
Yes, and this is that was one of my favorite things to do when I worked here as a groom back 20 years ago. I looked forward to fall to break babies here, and it's the perfect spot, yes.
Next generation, big possibility. Heza Fisher by Global Republic S. This is another one that Rosie added at the last minute. The gelding Run Zeb by Triumph Caviar, Tamika Seelster by Burnt Hanover. Why did you add this one at the very last minute?
Well, he kind of had a strike against him from the get-go. Like I said, being he wasn't able to go to the sale because he had that injury, and he was behind, and he's just real laid back, and he just kind of, I wouldn't say he's a slow learner, but he was just really a little bit behind the rest. And here the past month, every time I hook him up to go out there to train, it's like climbing a ladder, how much he's improving. He's just getting so much better, I mean by the day. And I just, like last week when he trained, I just thought he deserved a little shout out today.
Is he one of the horses that maybe need a little extra patience with?
No, not at all. No, he's probably, him and You Don't Fool Me are the two most well-behaved. He's better than some of the 3-year-olds. He's just,
Really?
like, I didn't know, I've had 3 or 4 Triumphant Caviars. Gracious Triumph was a basket case as a 2-year-old. She did everything but anything right. And Rose Run Extreme and Rose Run Exalted were 2 pretty nice horses.
Body-wise, he looks, to me anyway, and I don't know expert at it, but body-wise, he's a sharp looker.
Yeah, he's a very nice looking horse. He's got that scar on his leg from the injury he had. He was actually turned out in a field, in a run-in shed with his mom, just when he was really small still.
Yeah.
And he slipped through the mud and got hung up in the run-in shed, like in the metal or something. And I don't think the guys found out right away. And it's just kind of a yucky-looking scar, but that's why we call him Scar in the Barn. That's his nickname. But it's not affected him one step so far.
This is the gelding Run Zeb by Triumphant Caviar. Well, that wraps up another edition of Freshman Focus. I'd like to thank Rosie Weaver and her entire crew for making it a very easy job here today at Glory Meadows. Join us again next week, same time, same location for Freshman Focus.
This has been Freshman Focus, a look at 2-year-olds in training across the Buckeye State. Freshman Focus is presented by Eldorado Scioto Downs. Racing begins May 11th with the next generation July 1st. By Sugar Valley Farm. Looking for your next quality standard bred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. And by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, caring down to a science. Freshman Focus is a presentation of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.